Hi, everybody. Craig Shacklett from URComped here, and we have got a super special guest. We have got Francine from Lady Luck HQ. If not the biggest, you are on the medal stand as we're going off camera of like the biggest bot channels around. So, wow, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're so very welcome. Thanks for having me. You have me, and I do have a little dog in my lap. Her name's Leia, and there's another one floating around too. That's Yoda. So you may or may not hear from them this interview.
Perfect. Well, I've got Dexter in the crate downstairs. So if your dogs start getting active, I'll bring him up and show him off.
They can have a conversation together. I love it.
Yes, exactly. We'll have a second interview with the dogs. But before we get into all these questions, I've got a lot of things I want to ask you. Why don't you plug your channels real quick? Let us know where can people find you and find your great content.
So my channel is Lady Luck HQ. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I just kind of started doing that. Well, it's not Twitter anymore. It's X. Yeah, X. But it's Lady Luck HQ across all platforms. I try to keep the same name on all of them.
Yeah. And so tell me your origin story. How did you get into content creation in casinos?
Like dumb luck. I don't know how else to say that. So the way that this channel started was just dumb luck. My husband, and this goes back like several years, but my husband and I, at the time, we were living in the great state of Utah. And that being said, it is about an 8-hour drive to wonderful Las Vegas. So we had to be in Las Vegas a lot for our jobs. I was in the automotive space. He still is. But we both had to be in Las Vegas a lot for our automotive jobs, for conferences and things of that nature. And as we started going to all these different conferences, we would gamble when we would hit the casino. Well, we would get all these little like free rooms, free this. So we decided to frequent Vegas more than just these work trips that we had to be on. Anyways, while we were out in Vegas, anytime we hit like a jackpot, we created this Instagram account called Lady Luck HQ. And on that Instagram account, we would post pictures of like our jackpots at the casino, something separate from like our personal pages, just something where him and I could like come back to be like, oh, do you remember this trip? Oh, do you remember this jackpot? Oh, do you remember this dinner? People on Instagram kept messaging me, like just random people, because it was a public Instagram account, like anyone could follow it. People on there are like, hey, you should start a YouTube channel. We would watch you play. We would watch your slot play. And I was like, I scratched my head. I'm like, who would watch that? And then I looked it up on YouTube to see if I could find other creators that are doing it, to see what it is. Because at this time, like I wasn't big into watching things on YouTube. And we came across, there weren't many creators at the time. There was maybe 2 creators in the space.
And when was this roughly?
2017.
Okay.
2016 timeframe.
Yep.
There was barely anybody in the space. Like I came across like 2 people in the space that were doing it and kind of watched what they did. And I'm like, yeah, I could totally do that. Okay. So my husband and I, we talked about it. And I'm like, let's see if our host, because we were really big players at the Win at this time. I'm like, let's see if our host would allow us to do this. This, I don't know, could be fun. That's literally how the channel started. That's literally how it started. Like I had no intentions where I'm at now. Like I had no idea, no intentions. I did not set out to be some sort of content creator. I just did this. This was like something fun for me to do with my husband. And when people suggested it on Instagram, I'm like, okay, this could be kind of cool. Like, why not? Like, what do I got to lose? And that's how it started.
And so when you started, it's obviously you had no idea what it would become, but at the time we like, was revenue even part of it? Or you're just like, I'm just going to post it and build an audience and see what happens?
I honestly didn't know that you could like monetize the platform. Like I didn't start learning this until after I started the channel. Then I'm like, oh, wow, we need to do this to be able to get monetized here. Like I didn't know. But I knew that this type of content creation had legs, because the very first video, or I'm sorry, like the second or third video that I posted was this crazy jackpot of $18,000. Like it was nuts. It's on a $30 bet. It was at the Win. It's the most viral video in the space. But that video, when I launched it, it just took off like wildfire. Like it took off like nothing I've ever seen before. And I wasn't monetized. I had no idea what that even meant at the time, but I knew at that point, that was the point when I knew, okay, I have to take this more serious. Like, this is a thing. People want to watch this type of content. So that was like, it was like the third video I posted to the channel too.
And when it took off, was it, because I've never posted something that went viral. I mean, is it like within hours? Is it within a couple of days? Or when are you like, oh my gosh, this thing's on fire?
We went to bed, and the next day the video had like, I don't know, 10,000 views. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, people want to watch this? Whoa, okay. It was a great video. Like, it was such a fun video. But like, even after that video, the things that I would upload, people were still watching. Like, people wanted to watch that type of organic content.
Wow. And so you mentioned that your host of the win at the time, he was the one that kind of facilitated and helped you, or did you have to go to surveillance? Like, what was it when you started taking off? Were there extra steps you had to do?
So as far as like, at that time when we were recording at the win, we were the first people that they have ever approved to do this, which we're super grateful for, because that's literally how we started the channel, was at their property. That being said, all we really had to do was just let them know that we were recording. At the time, I just used my phone like this, and wibbly wobbly, like, film myself playing. And the slot attendants all knew us there. They all knew us from previous because we had gambled there quite frequently. So it wasn't anything different. But we had to get that permission before, and that was really it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like video number 3 went viral. And then from then on, was it like just steady growth of your subscribers? Were there any other inflection points where you can remember and be like, oh, that was a big turning point for our channel?
I think the next step for me at that point was figuring out how to get the channel monetized and what that meant long term. I can remember the day that we got monetized. My husband and I don't remember what day it is right now. I guess I could go back and look to find the exact day. But we were sitting in my office. We were looking. It took like 3 months for them to like get back all my information to verify everything was good. But the day that it turned out, I'm like, oh my God, we're monetized. Like, what does that mean? That was like a huge turning point in the channel. The next milestone for me was reaching 100,000 subscribers, because you get a plaque once you reach 100,000 subscribers. And that was like the next milestone that I was like, oh my God, I made like 100,000 people subscribe to the channel. Like, this is nuts. So those, I would say, in this starting the channel, those were probably my biggest moments.
Now, another milestone that I think would be a lot of fun would be the first time you got recognized in real life by a fan. Do you remember when that happened, where someone's like, are you Lady Luck HQ?
So what's funny is that happened early on, but it only happened early on because that video went viral so soon in the channel's history that a lot of people were going to the casino, going to the Wynn to find this Rio Dream slot machine. And the only reason why I knew this is because all the different casino hosts know that that's the machine that Lady Luck was playing. I mean, everybody in that casino this is going back to like the beginning of the channel. So what, 2018, that time frame, that machine was so popular. But I did get noticed multiple times in and around that machine. But the first time that I got noticed, like, I get noticed in the casino all the time. I get noticed in the airport. I feel like that, you're on your way to Vegas. Like, I feel like those are 2 normal places to get noticed at. But what stuck out to me getting noticed is when I got noticed at the mall here in Georgia. That to me was the first time I was like, no, I'm not that person. You don't know who I am. That it didn't catch me off guard, but it just made me realize, like, okay, now the channel's big enough where people outside of the casino environment are starting to recognize me. This is wild.
That's got to be wild. And there's probably some times where they don't talk to you, but you can see that they're looking at the phone, looking at you like, is that her? Like, does that happen often?
It does. It happens a lot in the casino. And if I'm not in a game and I notice it, I'll like wave or like make eye contact so they don't feel like uncomfortable. Cause I always welcome people coming to say hi, because if it wasn't for them, like, I wouldn't have this channel. So I'm very, very grateful to people that like watch and recognize, because that's like a huge part of the channel.
Now, put your humility and aside for a second. What makes your channel so special? What do you think is it that leads to Lady Luck HQ being one of the top channels in the space?
Honestly, I think I keep it real. I keep it real with the audience. Everything that we do is very organic. I don't have like a script I follow or things like that. It's just super organic content. But gambling, we spend a lot of money gambling. We win money, we lose money. I've made it very public to my subscribers and to people that watch the channel how much I make off of Facebook, how much I make off of YouTube. I've made videos showing, hey, this is what I make. This is how I make money. This is what's happening behind the scenes. I've publicly shared my win-loss statements and share how much I've lost versus how much I've won. I go through line by line of each casino. Obviously, my winning videos seem to do a lot better online. Those seem to be the ones that gain popularity that people want to watch over and over again. The videos where I lose money, some of them will do really good if, like, I don't know, there's something funny like my husband and I did in the video, or if there's something like crazy in the video itself, like maybe we lost $10,000. Like that's like, holy shit, like someone's going to be like, I want to watch that. But if it's just a losing video, they don't do as well as the winning video. So I always just want to keep it real with everybody that like, it's like, it's organic content. It's organic content and it's very expensive to create this type of organic content.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And people appreciate that realism because there's other channels that may make it look like, oh, all I do is win because of the strategy or whatever. And you're just like, hey, this is the real.
From a viewing standpoint, I get why they're taking on that strategy because those are the videos that do really, really well. However, that's not the reality of what gambling is. There's a lot of losses with gambling. We play a lot, we lose a lot, we win some massive jackpots, but there's a lot of back and forth that either people don't see or they fast forward because they don't want to see it, or perhaps they're new to the channel and they just don't know. So I just always make sure that I hit some key points just as a reality check for the audience, a pulse check, I guess.
Got it. Yep. Now, you mentioned earlier, like you had a favorite game at the time that you hit big at the win, that went viral. And then all of these people were showing up wanting to play that game. Do you have any other examples you can think of like where content you put out maybe influenced people's playing habits or wanting to try new properties, wanting to try new games?
So I have certain instances that yes, because I don't get all the analytics from the casinos to know like what games are being played more than others. I can tell you what's popular on the channel or what games are popular on the channel. But a few of the things that I've noticed is certain things that I say. So for example, like we premiered the $1 Million Dragon Link. We were the first people to play the $1 Million Dragon Link. We played it at the Hard Rock Hollywood. And when we played that, Aristocrat, because that's the game maker of that game, Aristocrat they said, we're going to be in the chat to help you with any comments that come up and blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. Well, one of the things that came up is the wild symbol in that particular game is like this, I don't know, this like Mongolian man. He's like the wild symbol, right? And I asked the girl that was in the chat from Aristocrat, like, hey, what's his name? Have you named this character? Like, what is his name? They're like, he doesn't have a name. I go, I'm naming him Hank.
Hank.
From that day on, his name is Hank. And other creators in the space call him Hank. Other people in the casino call him Hank. His name has now been coined Hank, all because of that live stream and that video. And there's like other little things that we say and do too, like I always say save the day. Like if I'm on my last spin and I need one more ball to like reset the machine, I'll be like, oh, save the day. And like other people in the casino start saying that. I've even created like little shirts that say save the day, or like the one I'm wearing right now says one jack off, because that's like something my husband always says is, oh, we were just one jack off. Like just little things like that became popular and funny and quirky in the channel, but it's also spilled over into like influencing other people to say those silly, quirky things.
That is awesome. Yeah, everybody go to the store because those shirts are in gear is hilarious. So how do they find your store? Just real quick.
It's shop.ladyluckhq.com, or if they just go to my YouTube channel, every video, it's like in a carousel underneath my videos.
Perfect. Now you obviously get to visit a lot of different properties.
Yes.
What sets apart properties that you really like? Are there certain amenities or like, I don't know, yeah, what said, you don't need to name names if you don't want to, but
Yeah.
like, what are properties where you're like, I just love when they have this or they do this?
So I'm a high limit player. I feel like bougie is like my vibe. So
Mhm.
like I like when I go to a casino, like I like casinos that have like a great selection of high limit games. Um, I really like when they have like a super fancy steakhouse or super fancy like caviar bar or champagne bar. Like I like that Vegas, like they're gonna pick me up in a limo and have champagne waiting. Like I like that vibe. That's my vibe. Like I like that. I like that experience. And that's what I like to see in a casino.
Ju-
It's fun for me.
No, there's no better thrill than like getting off the airplane and
Yeah.
seeing your name on there and you're like,
Seeing
oh
your name
yeah.
on the card and then going into the limo and there's champagne and then you check in and it's like the private area where you check in. You can bypass the line and you check in, and when you check in, someone walks you to your room, and in your room you have like your favorite this sitting there, or balloons, or like it's just like I don't know. It's just an experience that I don't think I'll ever get over. Like I love that. We've been doing this like as far as like traveling to Vegas now. Prior to even the channel, I mean, we've had the channel for what, 5 years now? Like it's been several years we've been doing this, and it doesn't get old. Like I love it.
Well, how do you, obviously the way casinos interact with channels has changed a lot since you went
Yeah.
viral with the win. And now obviously more and more casinos are embracing influencer marketing. So maybe you could talk about like, what have been some of the biggest changes you've seen over the last couple of years, and where do you think it's heading in the next couple of years?
With influencer marketing.
Yep.
So I think influencer marketing is a strategy that every casino should implement in some way, shape, or form. As far as influencer marketing goes, a lot of casinos, I think, struggle with what is influencer marketing and how can we use that. I guess as an influencer, the audience that I have curated over time is a super loyal audience, but it's also an audience that loves to travel, loves to gamble, loves the slot machines. It's a very, very niche audience, right? Casinos, casinos have a marketing budget that they spend every month to try to get people into their casinos, right? As a virtual, and I kind of wrote this one down because I knew this question was going to come up. So like, for example, what does a casino spend with, like, it's a rhetorical question. Like, what does a casino spend every single month with digital advertising? Like, what's that number? Like, think about what that number could be. And when you get a channel in, for example, every day I get on average 400,000 views per day, average, just on my YouTube channel. That's a lot of eyeballs. That's a lot of very intent casino going enthusiasts that are watching the channel. Over a 30-day period, that's 12 million views in a month, just YouTube alone. That's a lot of views. What would a casino have to spend to get 12 million views on their ad online? What's that number?
It's a big number.
It's a huge number. I looked it up actually before we got on this call because I knew this was going to come up.
Yeah.
It costs a casino anywhere between 10 to 30 cents per view for someone to view that ad, right? So that would be $1.2 million to get to the amount of views that I get organically every month. That's a lot of money a casino would have to spend in order to get the same amount of views I get naturally or organically. So from a casino standpoint, using a influencer is going to get them in front of a large audience that loves the casino, loves to gamble, loves, you know what I mean? Loves to travel to these different places.
Absolutely. From an ROI perspective, I don't think there's a better investment, because you look at, any big city, there's going to be billboards of whatever the local casino is, and those are crazy expensive. The big sports teams have the sponsorship. I mean, there's so much money being tossed around that it gets to, maybe 5% of the people that see that actually gamble, whereas your channel is going to be closer to 100%.
It's very niche because my channel is very niche.
So let's say a casino is watching this and they're like, you know what, I'm in, I want to take that first step.
Yeah.
What should they do to start getting involved with influencer marketing?
The first step that they should probably take is their brand is very important. My brand is very important. The two brands have to mesh. So they have to genuinely like the influencer that they're going to work with. And the influencer has to genuinely like the casino that they're going to work with, because this is going to be a co-branded effort. And there needs to be synergy between the casinos. If you find an influencer that perhaps like you're not sure about, perhaps don't move forward with that influencer, because they can either elevate your brand or not. But first, I would say identify what type of influencer you want to work with, and then from there, see what their reach is and reach out to them. See if they're open to working with a casino. I mean, every influencer is going to be different, but just reaching out with an email and asking like, hey, what's your stats? What's the demographic of your channel? What's your reach? Are you open to this type of marketing? That's a great way to start the conversation with an influencer.
And what would be some things casinos should prepare themselves for? Like, let's say we've never had anybody in here filming, or at least not that we gave permission to. What are some things that they can do to make it so when you go live or when you are creating content, it's as successful as possible?
Make sure that everybody on the casino floor knows that the influencer is there to record, go live, or whatever that might be. I've run into several cases where certain casinos have invited me out and they forgot to share with their staff that I was going to be there. And then I get caught up with security and having to explain that I'm here because, you know, your management wants me here. And then it's like a whole ordeal, and it kind of paints a bad picture in my mind of, wow, are they organized? I don't know. So just that I think is the number one thing, is make sure that everybody at the casino knows that the influencer is coming. Ask the influencer what type of equipment they use. Most influencers are not using crazy professional equipment. However, when I first started the channel, it was just this cell phone, right? Recording it like this. Now it's the cell phone. There's a stand that I attach to this so I don't have to hold the phone, and so that the view isn't like this for the user. It's nice and steady. But I also record for long form and short form at the same time. So there's this camera like this, then there's this camera like this. So I have two cameras going, both vertical and horizontal. And I'm walking around with a little monopod with these two little cameras attached to it, and I look so goofy. But that's the equipment that I use. It's not really professional equipment, but that's the equipment that I use in order to get like a still shot for what I'm filming for. So make sure that everyone in the casino knows what type of equipment that influencer is using. If you are wanting the influencer to go live, make sure you actually have internet that is speedy enough to support a live stream. Perhaps even getting a separate internet, maybe just for that night, for that influencer to use. Because when you go live, you use a lot of bandwidth. And if you have hundreds of thousands of people on that same internet, the influencer is going to get bogged down because they're going to be the one person using all the bandwidth, then the internet's going to kick them off. So that, another thing we always run into is there's some casinos that have fast pay. So when you play at the high levels that we're playing at, a line hit could be a hand pay, which is amazing. And I love that. However, when you're in a live stream, you don't want to wait 30 minutes for the slot attendant to come by and, you know, pay you out. You got a whole audience that's watching you live. So it's nice to either, one, have a fast pay or quick pay set up, or two, have a slot attendant kind of shadow that influencer, or at least be in the same area where that influencer is going to be. This way that stream or that live stream goes very smoothly for the influencer.
Great advice. Anything else? Sorry.
Yeah, well, there's one more thing I'd like to add to that. A lot of times the casinos work in separate teams, right? So there's like the marketing team that's all pro influencer, and then there's this other team that runs other things within the casino but still has stuff in line with marketing. Make sure the marketing team and the social media team are on the same page, because it's more impactful. Like when you do a collaborative post, like I can post about it and my audience is going to know about it, but I'm coming to a casino that also has a huge audience. Have the casino post on, like, do branded content posts on Instagram or little reels and little teasers before the influencer gets there, letting the audience know like, hey, we're going to have this person on property and things like that, just to make the experience better, perhaps for the guests in the casino or whatever you agreed upon, doing with that particular influencer. But collab posts is where I was going with that.
Nice. No, great advice. And then what are some things maybe casinos are like, we should bring it in, but they don't understand like all the potential benefits or ways that you can help them out. So maybe can you talk about, have casinos ever asked you, hey, can you help us out with this game or this restaurant? Or like, do you ever work with them to feature different things that they need help with?
Yeah. So for example, Huff and Even More Puff just came out with a brand new game. I'm sorry, Light and Wonder came out with a brand new game called Huff and Even More Puff. I was the first person in the world to launch that game. And it was at the Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida. And that was a collaborated event that I did with Hard Rock, with Light and Wonder, because it was like the grand reveal of this newly anticipated game that's got a huge following. Doing those types of things. I love doing those types of things. I think it's really fun. Obviously, my audience loves watching slots, so it makes sense for my audience. But virtually influencers can help in more than just games, right? Like there's even like travel influencers where they can help with certain destinations or highlighting certain restaurants or certain things that are going on at the property. It doesn't always necessarily have to be like a gaming influencer like myself. That's why finding the right influencer for what you're trying to do is really what's key. If your end goal is like, we're just launching this new steakhouse and we're trying to get people in, but nothing seems to be working, get a foodie, get an influencer foodie in like your area or big. That's the best way.
Now there's some casinos that are still on the fence or like, I don't know about this. What are common concerns that you hear from casinos that aren't all in on influencer marketing yet? And then what's kind of your counter? Like what are some things you could say that will set their mind at ease?
You want to work with an influencer that you trust. That's really what it comes down to. An influencer is going to be an extension of your brand, but they are also going to be an extension of my brand, and my brand is super important and their brand is super important. You want to make sure that you're working with an influencer that you trust, that isn't going to go off the rails and talk poorly about your property after the fact. Like, just like with an employee that you're trusting working a cashier, it's got to, you know what I mean? Like, it's just got to be an influencer that you trust. Watch their content, see what they're doing, see what they're about, see what their style is. If it doesn't feel right for you, then that's not the right influencer. But I promise you, there is a right influencer for each property.
So you're saying, if I were to distill that or say it a different way, it's like, do your research, watch a bunch and see which ones are like, okay, this one really matches our brand. And then the next step is reach out.
Yeah. It matches your brand, matches your integrity, matches like the target audience that you're trying to get after. Like, will people that come to your casino, will they be able to identify with this influencer? Like, those are the types of things that the casino needs to be looking at. And then also look at like, what is their reach? Like, how many views are they getting? When a casino reaches out to me, those are some of the things they ask me, like, what is your reach? What is your demographic? Like, how many views per month are you getting? And those are some things that I think are very relevant questions for the casino, because that organic reach that they're reaching are people that like watching this channel, but two are people that like, in my instance, like they like to gamble, they like the casino space. That's a huge amount of, you know what I mean? Like, that's a huge number. I don't want to go to a casino that I'm not going to like and put that type of content in front of my users, because I have a very large audience. And same goes for the casino with me.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we come to the last couple questions, I want to know what are you most excited about for Lady Luck HQ over the next 12 months, couple of years? What are you looking forward to?
Just at some point, we are going to take this to the next level. I just don't know when that's going to be. But at some point we will. Right now, I reside in the great state of Georgia. In Georgia, there are no casinos in my state, so I always have to travel to get to a casino. It would be awesome to be closer to a casino that I could get to on a regular basis. Not that, Florida's not far. It's not hard for me to get to Vegas, but taking it to the next level would be incredible. Hitting 1 million subscribers on any one of my platforms would be amazing. I'm halfway there on almost all of them. So I got halfway to go. So that's another huge accomplishment. I can't wait until I reach that as well.
All right. Okay. So where should people go to subscribe and help you get to that 1 million subscriber mark?
Lady Luck HQ on YouTube and Lady Luck HQ on Facebook. Those are the two main platforms that I use. Those are the two that would help me out tremendously. Subscribe.
All right. And then for any casino executive that's watching this now that wants to bring Lady Luck HQ, get that high limit vibe going, how can they get a hold of you and talk about collaboration?
Just shoot me an email. You can always DM me on Instagram. I get a lot of requests on Instagram, DMs on Instagram, or just an email.
So obviously you've got one of the biggest channels. There's several other big channels out there. And how much overlap do you think there is between people? Are there people that view only one channel, or do you think there's a lot of people viewing other channels? Do you think it's somewhere in between? Let me know what you think.
Yeah, I think it's, it's a combination of both. I mean, with your analytics like that you have on YouTube, I can see like what my people are watching, and then I can see like other channels your subscribers are watching, and it lists all the other channels. So I'm sure that there are some people out there that are like, oh, I'm not going to watch this person because they do X, Y, and Z, and that just bothers me. But I am going to watch these people because, oh my God, I love this. I'm sure there's more people that watch my channel over others and vice versa, just because they can identify more with, my husband and I playing together and having that banter, where perhaps somebody wants to watch somebody that's, let's say, not always with their spouse. You know what I mean? So like to answer that question, yeah, I think that there's a lot of shared views amongst all of the content creators in this space. I think some are going to get favorited over others. But it's a huge space. Like the internet's wild. Like it's there's space for all of us. Like it's crazy.
Obviously your channel has been exploding, but I'm sure there's been challenges along the way. What are some challenges that you face as an influencer in casino industry?
So my biggest challenge is censorship. Censorship is the biggest challenge that I think everybody in this space faces. When TikTok first came out, TikTok banned a lot of creators in the casino space. However, TikTok lets other things run wild, like nudity, sex, drugs, alcohol. I can't tell you how many times I roll through my page and you see half naked people, and it's like, wow, they allow this, but they don't want gambling. So that's something that's always been a challenge. It's a challenge for other creators. It's been fun, but some of these platforms do really try to censor things that this niche provides.
What about influencer activity? Obviously, like for unfairly, probably a lot of influencers get dropped in the same bucket, and activities by some bad apples may affect your channel or other influencers that are doing it the right way. What are some activities that have hurt the perception of influencers?
So going back to the whole TikTok thing, or just like live streams in general. So, and I don't ever think an influencer or a creator ever thought that this would be an issue, but it's a huge issue. And I think that this is one of the reasons why some casinos perhaps don't necessarily, I don't want to say they don't want influencers, but they get scared. Group polls. So there's a lot of influencers out there, and I don't necessarily do group polls in the sense that what was happening on certain platforms is an influencer would go live, and then they would ask their followers, hey, give me X amount of money and I'll play that money for you in the machine of your choice. If I win, I'm going to take X amount as a cut because I'm playing this live with the audience. And it's like 10 or 15 bucks or whatever it is. It sounds so very innocent, right? But it's highly illegal. Like it's highly illegal. And I don't think any influencer out there ever meant it in a way to be illegal or to do anything in a poor light. I just think it's something that a lot of people weren't too educated on. And then there's always a couple of bad apples that ruin it for the bunch.
And so you mentioned group polls. Are you talking about group polls like in real life? Like, do you think there's some things that could go sideways there as well?
So group pools in real life, not so much, because if you're doing it with a casino that one supports it, they'll have all the proper documentation and legal paperwork you would all have to fill out in order to actually make that happen, like in real life in the casino. I personally have never done one like that, just because I would feel horrible if everyone gives me $100 and I stick it all in the machine and I lose. I would just feel like an asshole. So I've never done it, just because I would feel guilty gambling with somebody else's money. But when I'm gambling with my own money, I don't have that guilt feeling. If I lose it, I already know what I'm doing with my money. I know that I'm going to lose it. I'm just doing it for fun. Group pools in the casino is fine. I just personally stay away from it, but it's the group pools that are happening virtually that are highly illegal. I know that TikTok has cut down on a lot of that. And I know that's partially reason why they probably censor some of the slot community. But it is something that, if you're going to hire an influencer, does need to be addressed, talked about, or at least written in the agreement, because in that instance, it is illegal. You cannot do that. That's not how it works, unfortunately. Yeah.
And then you mentioned agreements. Like, do a lot of these casinos, do they have special agreements for influencers, or do you have yours that you give to casinos, or how does that normally work?
Yeah. So if a casino, wants me to come out to a property and, let's say, do a meet and greet, and they want me to spend X amount of hours, like, shaking hands and taking pictures with people, I would absolutely do it. But also in that agreement, they'll include, like, obviously if I come on property, if there's something that you want me to talk about or do, or let's say certain games you want me to play, or maybe you just want me to come in and do everything organically, but you don't want me to bash the tribe's name or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever that might be, whatever those things are that you're looking for or not looking for from an influencer, you want to make sure that you put that in the agreement and make sure that you and the influencer are on the same page when it comes to all those things. I mean, me as a person, like, I'm a pretty open, honest person, so I'll shoot it to everybody straight. If something goes wrong at the casino, you will know about it, but I'm not necessarily going to broadcast it publicly on my channel unless, of course, something like detrimental happened to me. But if there's little hiccups or things that happen, like you didn't alert security I was coming and I got harassed, like, I'm not going to out you, but I'm going to make sure that you know about it. So when you do this in the future, that you know that this is an area that needs to be buttoned up. And I would expect the same mutual respect from the casino back to me if I ever did anything. You know what I mean? Like, same, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No one's trying to get each other in trouble or make each other look bad. You gotta give some grace.
Correct. That's why it's very important to make sure that you trust the influencer that you're working with.
Well, last question. I know you've got a lot of favorite games, but is there one in particular that you're excited about right now that you're playing?
So Huff and Even More Puff. Okay, that one, I've only played it one time. I cannot wait till that, like, circulates and gets, launched at all the different casinos, because there's a lot going on with that game. But as far as, like, my favorites go, just in general, I stick to Dragon Link and Piggy Bankin'. Those have been the two games that I play all the time. I've hit 2 grand jackpots on Piggies and none on Dragon Link. So I'm still chasing that grand jackpot on Dragon Link.
You're due. All right, we'll have to do this again. We'll do it again once you hit that grand. We got a couple. When you hit the big one on that game, and then when you get $1 million, we'll have to do this again and celebrate.
Yes, I agree.
Well, Francine, hey, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy, and we are so excited about the growth of your channel and just how well you've been doing. So thank you so much for spending time with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.